A title appears, Unsung Heroes of Valley Forge, narrated by Laura Linney. A tree falls to the ground. Soldiers saw and chopped logs.
In December 1777, the Continental Army temporarily transformed Valley Forge into the fourth largest city in the nation.
People walking in camp.
The diverse cultures and ethnicities within the encampment reflected the future fabric of the United States.
Cooking over an open fire.
The Army was dependent on individuals working together to support the encampment.
Women, wrapped in blankets, walk through the snow.
Up to 400 women supported the Army as nurses, laundresses, seamstresses, provisioners, and even spies. These women and children were exposed to many of the same hardships and risks as soldiers.
A nurse comforts a sick man. Then African-American soldiers.
As many as 700 African-American soldiers served at Valley Forge.
Men build earthworks.
Some enslaved men were forced by their slaveholders to enlist and fight in their place. Free men of color were joined by enslaved men who enlisted in exchange for the promise of freedom. African-American men and women also worked as camp followers and servants.
African-American woman folding linens.
While most American tribes allied themselves with the British, the Tuscarora, Delaware, Stockbridge Mohican, and Oneida tribes supported the Continental Army.
American Indian warriors walk through the woods.
In May, a delegation of 47 Oneida warriors arrived at Valley Forge to support Washington's army by serving as scouts and tracking enemy movements.
An Oneida scout in the forest.
According to oral tradition, the Oneida also brought valuable corn for the encampment.
An Oneida woman hands corn to a female camp follower.
And instructed the Continentals on how to forage.
An Oneida woman holds up a small pine branch.
After the war, the United States government betrayed many of their former tribal allies, breaking treaties and prior promises for land and compensation.
Image of a treaty and portrait of an Oneida chief.
At war's end, some African Americans were granted freedom for their service.
Illustration of an older, well-dressed African American man.
But many others, despite risking their lives, were re-enslaved by both the British and American governments.
Illustration of an enslaved man in chains. Text reads, "Am I not a man and a brother?"
Throughout the Revolutionary War, as many as 20,000 women traveled alongside the Continental Army, contributing to the ultimate victory.
Women travel on foot carrying their belongings.
Despite these sacrifices, women received little acknowledgement or compensation compared to their male peers. For the women, American Indians, and African Americans that sacrificed for the cause of liberty at Valley Forge, the fight for freedom, equality, and recognition continues.
African American soldiers stand shoulder to shoulder. Text appears, Valley Forge National Historical Park.